I call this hearing to order. And at the beginning of this hearing, I would like to thank all the members, the witnesses, the press, and those visitors that we have today with the inclement weather that was predicted and some has fallen. We thought it was important to continue this hearing, so I'm grateful to each of our witnesses and to those that couldn't make it because of flights today. We have tried to adjust so we've got the appropriate witnesses for the second panel as well. Today, the committee convenes the first open hearing to reflect the progress and preliminary recommendations and findings of our investigation into Russia's attempt to interfere in the 2016 U.S. elections. I'd like to welcome our two distinguished witnesses, Secretary of Homeland Security Kirstjen Nielsen and former Secretary of Homeland Security Jay Johnson. Jay, I am grateful for the service that you provided to your country in a number of places, and Secretary Nielsen, I have enjoyed very much the time that you have been there and look forward to what we can accomplish between this committee and the Department of Homeland Security in the future. I want to thank both of you for being here together, which I think is unprecedented, and I am grateful to the administration for agreeing. It speaks to the importance of the issue and sends a message that transcends partisanship. The Vice Chairman and I asked the two of you to appear together to tell the story of what happened in 2016, how the department reacted then, and how it has evolved and what it's doing today. I think your collective remarks will show the remarkable evolution of an agency that is playing an increasingly important role to support the states. When this cyber threat surfaced in 2016, many struggled to understand the attack, the intentions behind it, and how to respond. By the beginning of 2018, however, DHS has made great strides towards better understanding elections, better understanding the states, and providing assistance that makes a difference to the security of our elections. But there's more to do. There's a long wait time for DHS premier services. States are still not getting all the information they feel they need to secure their systems. The Department's ability to collect all the information needed to fully understand a problem is an open question. And attributing cyber attacks quickly and authoritatively is a continuing challenge. Secretary Nielsen, as you appropriately note in your statement, the administration of elections is the responsibility of the state and local officials. And the support your agency provides is on a voluntary basis. What we've learned is that states will only engage with the department if they feel there's value. And I'm confident that the customer service, if you can call it that, and the value you're providing to your state partners is improving every single day. Securing our elections requires immediate action, and the urgency is reflected in the committee's recommendations released yesterday. We've convened today's hearing in the midst of a snowstorm of sorts to speak to the American people publicly about the threat posed by Russia and the efforts by our federal, state, and local governments to protect against it. This issue is urgent. If we start to fix these problems tomorrow, we still might not be in time to save the system for 2016 and 2020. I understand, Secretary Nielsen, you have a hard stop, something about a cabinet meeting, and we respect those cabinet meetings when the President calls it. So in the interest of time, I will end there, and I will turn to the Vice Chairman for any remarks he might have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to welcome the witnesses as well. Today's hearing comes at a critical time. The committee remains in the midst of our bipartisan investigation into the Russian attacks during the 2016 election, and we still have more work to do. However, we as a committee felt it was important to move out our initial findings and recommendations on securing our election infrastructure, given the upcoming elections in November. Our main question today is how do we protect the 2018 elections? And the threat is real and growing. During the 2016 campaign, we saw unprecedented targeting of election infrastructure by Russian actors. Russian hackers were able to penetrate Illinois' voter registration database and access 90,000 voter registration records. They also attempted to target the election systems of at least 20 other states. The intelligence community's assessment last January concluded that Russia secured and maintained access to multiple elements of U.S. state and local election boards. And the truth is clear that 2016 will not be the last of their attempts. Just weeks ago, we heard from all our top intelligence officials testifying before this committee that the Russians will continue to attack our elections. And unfortunately, there are signs that the Kremlin is becoming more brazen. As we saw recently, the Putin regime was behind an assassination attempt on a European soil with a prohibited military-grade nerve agent. This is obviously not the actions of a regime that will be easily deterred. So how are we prepared to come against this threat that we know is coming again? Elections at all levels are central to our democracy, to our institutions, and to our government's legitimacy. And I remain concerned that we're still not fully prepared. Candidly, and I've shared this with both of you, I was disappointed on how the Department of Homeland Security, the primary U.S. government agency responsible for our election security, approached this issue early on. During the 2016 election, officials at both the federal and state level were caught flat-footed, and the follow-up from the new administration was not much better. Last June, we heard from DHS, FBI, and state election officials about the threat to our election systems, which, based upon Secretary Johnson's earlier actions, DHS considers part of our nation's critical infrastructure. Despite evidence of interference, the federal government and the states had barely communicated about strengthening our defenses. It was not until the fall of 2017 that DHS even fully notified the states that they had been potential targets. And unfortunately, that was an issue that members of this committee, bipartisan, stressed in our hearing last June. Candidly, we have to improve those communications. But clearly, more must be done, from hardening our election, registration, and voting systems, to ensuring that voting machines have backup paper ballots, to instituting audits and providing additional federal assistance to those states that request it. And one area I know that we're not going to talk about today, but I think does need additional investigation, is how we make sure that the ultimate startups, campaigns, practice basic cybersecurity. The threat is real, and the need to act is urgent. We need the administration to accelerate its efforts. Perhaps most of all, we need a president who will acknowledge the gravity of this threat and lead a whole-of-society effort to harden our defenses and inoculate our society against Russia's malicious interference. The fact that the President did not even bring up the topic of our election security when he called Vladimir Putin to congratulate him on his victory in a pre-cooked election, I believe, is extremely troubling. The good news is this problem is not a Democratic or Republican one. And I personally want to thank all the members of the committee on both sides of the aisle for the good work that they've done. You're going to hear from some of them who've been working on a set of recommendations, and Senator Rubio has also been working on a set of recommendations. We all have to get this done, and we have to act quickly. Again, I'm pleased to have both of the secretaries here. I know it's a little bit unprecedented. I thank them both for being here and thank them for getting through the storm. With that, Mr. Chairman, I look forward to our hearing.
I thank the Vice Chairman. This morning we'll hear from Secretary Nielsen and Secretary Johnson. Their testimony will be followed up by questions of up to 5 minutes from members, recognizing first Senator Collins, followed by Heinrich, Langford, Harris, the chair, the vice chair, and then members based upon seniority after that. Having covered that, Secretary Nielsen, the floor is yours.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me here. I want to thank Chairman Byrd, Vice Chairman Warner, and all the members of the committee for not only the opportunity to testify, but I really do want to thank you for your leadership, your bipartisan efforts here to assess what we did, what we didn't do, what we can do better in partnership really can't be overstated in terms of its importance. So I thank you for that. Before we begin, I just wanted to extend my thanks to the first responders who've been working around the clock in Texas on the package bombing case. At DHS, we've been in close contact with those on the ground, and although the situation appears to be over, we urge the public to remain alert and report any suspicious activity or packages or devices. Over the course of nearly 3 weeks, at least 7 explosive devices were encountered in and around the Austin area, with 5 of them unfortunately detonating. Our thoughts go out to the victims and their families, and our gratitude is extended to the frontline defenders who helped locate the alleged perpetrator. The suspect is now deceased, but the case is yet another stark reminder of the importance of both public vigilance and also how important it is for close federal, state, and local coordination. That coordination is also relevant, clearly, to the issue we have before us today. In a democracy, citizens must have faith that their vote counts and is counted correctly. Recently, in the United States and around the globe, we have seen malicious foreign actors attempt to subvert democracy by taking action to influence voters and by exploiting vulnerabilities in cyberspace to attack election systems. In 2016, we know that Russian actors targeted state election systems. We have no evidence that votes were changed as a result of their efforts. However, the threat of interference remains, and we recognize that the 2018 midterm and future elections are clearly potential targets for Russian hacking attempts. Today, we have a whole-of-government effort to improve the resilience and security of those systems, which is led by DHS with assistance from the Departments of Justice, the FBI, and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. We are working with the vendor community, and most importantly, we are working in voluntary partnership with our state and local election partners. There's also a separate initiative to address efforts by foreign nationals to influence our elections through messaging, propaganda, and manipulation. I think this is also a very important topic. That effort is being led by the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the Department of State. While DHS will, of course, support this effort, I will let my colleagues discuss their work in that area. And instead, today, I look forward to discussing the work that the Department is doing to assist state and local officials to harden our election systems. Under our Constitution and laws, as has been mentioned by the Chairman and the Vice, the administration of elections is the responsibility of state and local officials. The Department's mission is to provide assistance and support to those officials in the form of advice, intelligence, technical support, incident response planning, with the ultimate goal of building a more resilient, redundant, and secure election enterprise. Our services are voluntary, and not all election officials accept our offer of support. We continue to offer it. We continue to demonstrate its value. But in many cases, state and local officials have their own resources and simply don't require the assistance that we're offering. DHS typically offers a range of technical services. We'll go into some detail today about those. More than half of the states have signed up for our cyber hygiene scanning service, which is an automated remote scan that gives state and local officials a report identifying vulnerabilities and offering recommendations to mitigate them. We also provide, as I believe you all have noted, on-site risk and vulnerability assessments. The assessments are more thorough. We do pen testing. It's a full report of vulnerability and recommendations. And over the past year, we've increased the availability of these assessments and prioritize them. Information sharing is also critical. We share information directly with election officials through trusted third parties, such as the Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center, or MS-ISAC, and we look forward to the creation of the Election ISAC. The National Cybersecurity and Communications Integration Center, or the NCIC, is the Department's hub for information sharing activity. Actionable and timely information empowers election officials to make more risk-informed decisions. We must rapidly share information about potential compromises with the broader community so that everyone can defend their systems. This collective defense approach makes all election systems more secure. We're also working with state election officials to share classified information on specific threats, including sponsoring up to 3 officials per state with security clearances and providing one-day read-ins as needed when needed, as we did in mid-February for the Secretaries of State and election directors. We are also working with the intelligence community to rapidly declassify information to share with our stakeholders. To be clear, there has been a learning curve on the sharing of information. The election systems in states are often owned and operated by different systems: the Secretary of State, the state CIO, in some cases the state CISO, the governor's office, or even counties. While appropriate technical information and notifications were shared with system owners, we have taken steps to share information much more broadly and rapidly. Beyond sharing information, we also share best practices for risk management, such as paper ballot backups and risk-limiting audits. The ultimate goal, of course, is enhancing network protection, but we must be prepared for any eventuality, including unauthorized access to systems. The NCIC is again the center of these efforts. Every day, our protective security advisors and cybersecurity advisors located nationwide are working with election officials on incident response planning and crisis communications. Just yesterday, we had both our head of our NPPD as well as our cybersecurity advisor in Cook County, real-time, helping in case there was any issue with the election. DHS is committed to working collaboratively with those administrating our elections. We have formalized and better coordinated these efforts through the establishment of government and sector coordinating councils. And today I can say with confidence that we know whom to contact in every state to share threat information. That capability did not exist in 2016. DHS is leading federal efforts to support and enhance the security of election systems across the country. Yet we do face a technology deficit that exists not just in election infrastructure, but across state and local government systems. It will require a significant investment over time and will require a whole-of-government solution to ensure continued confidence in our elections. Personally, I'm looking across my existing authorities as Secretary of the Department and looking at our available grant programs for opportunities to help state and locals in this area. I look forward to working with Congress. I read with great interest the recommendations that were released yesterday from your study, and certainly look forward to working with you on implementing them. Thank you for the opportunity to appear, and I look forward to your questions.
Secretary Nielsen, thank you very much.